Last week, we picked the game up in the basement of the Lich by the name of Zaldara Cordress, the Duchess of Rot, along the Sword Coast. You guys were sent by the Harpers to retrieve her phylactery, which ended up being a spellbook, a tome woven in human flesh. And you guys were able to retrieve this item and bring it back out to Calbrex, a member of the Harpers, who transported you to the battlefield outside of Zaldara's lair, where you um, negotiated with this lich for any information that she might have about this death curse and an item called the Soulmonger. And she basically told you that the death curse is very similar to the magic that liches use to basically create their phylactery. Although this curse is on a much larger scale. And what she's deduced is that something is stopping souls from traveling to whatever their intended destination is um, upon death. And she believes that whatever the soulmonger is the basically the battery or the satellite or the antenna that is drawing these souls in once they depart from their physical form into the afterlife. And she said that the strongest currents of this energy lie far to the south on the islands of Chult. And so Sindra Sylvain, one of the two women that approached you after Stella's funeral, teleported you all to this island, this tropical island city, to a place called Port Nyanzaru. And she told you she was going to be staying with her friend, one of the merchant princes of the city, a man by the name of Wakanga, who lives up on Throne Hill. And she said that you all should all start making your way into the city, listening to any rumors that might float across your ears. Um, Perhaps you she pointed you into the direction of the place called the Red Bazaar, where there were a couple of local inns that you had explored, and actually did come across a few um, people in the town that are offering their services as jungle guides. And you'd spoken to a few, a dwarf by the name of Hugh Hackenstone or Hackensaw, I can't remember off the top of my head. Um, uh, you also talked to another snake-like woman who didn't seem too interested in anybody getting a little handsy with her. And you have a meeting um, tomorrow with um, another one of these guides named Azaka. But in the meantime, we ended the game last session with Wuce pilfering a map out of the pack of the dwarven guide Hugh, and the rest of the party inside the one of the inns, Kaya's Gentle Repose, speaking to one of these guides whose name I believe
Salida.
Salida. Yeah, I forgot I put that handout up in your handouts folder there. That's why I couldn't find it. Um, and so, um, Woos, you kind of find yourself making your way through the crowds, out exiting the Colosseum with a little rolled up map tube in your little rat paws. And the rest of you now are kind of all standing around together in Kai's gentle repose. Um, it's still basically now coming into late afternoon in Port Nyanzaru. Today was a hot day, um, and there were no rains or anything, and so even inside of the building, it's muggy and warm, and the air is kind of thick with this incense that's burning in the little quiet inn that you're all in here in the Red Bazaar. So what do you guys do?
Okay, so I think um, I've met with Salida. It may be pertinent for us to go and speak with Wakanga Otama.
You're the man with the plan.
Yeah, I don't think that'd be a bad idea. I don't think we're going to get anywhere with this dwarf.
Yes, The guides that we have spoken to so far seem.
Greedy.
Yes, that's a good word.
I show up. Hey guys, speaking of greed, look what I got.
Yeah, and
I pull out the map.
And I think
Scroll map.
I think actually what I'll do for that is on the player's map of Chult here, I'll remove some of the areas that Hugh had explored on his map.
So I guess I'll just role play because they don't know what I've done, right?
No.
So guys, before you get upset, let me explain. So while you guys were talking to the seducer, I entered a game of chance with my dice, and I finagled a deal with some of the guys there to confiscate the dwarves' map for money. So I mean, we don't. That's where I'm at now. I feel like maybe we can do more scheming, but I guess I just want to let you guys in on it so you can, we can brainstorm together.
So what you're saying is you stole the map from the dwarf?
Yeah. What about? That's exactly what I said. Yes. Yeah.
Isn't he gonna feel super sad when he realizes his map is gone?
Oh, I love the IOU note.
Oh, okay. But as long as you stick to that.
Okay,
it's
well,
fine.
Be that as it may, I think that you have perhaps done us a good service here. Thank you, Wuce.
Yeah, and so I imagine, Ayan, you probably pull out, Syndra's map and you start comparing them and, kind of etching in the areas that are missing from Syndra's onto, from Hugh's onto yours. And so I've exposed,
definitely.
I've exposed some of the now lower portions of the map here, where Hugh did most of his exploring along these southern parts. So he'd been all down through this southern portion of the jungle, as well as like through this portion called the Lands of Ash and Smoke, and some of the extremities of the lower portions of the island, and then just some of the more of the outer lying top portions up closer to Port Nyanzaru.
So my thought is maybe we can use this map to set up the trade, but then involve the dwarf in a way that gives us favor with the dwarf. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, as long as he gets his map back, that's fine.
But of course, we have to wait until after the exchange because I want to get the money as well.
Well, yeah, money is useful, I guess.
Cream and all.
Rito, some people pronounce my name as Khan, like the common word for a trick. But I think that this name may suit you better.
Does that mean you don't want to take part in this con?
Yeah, I would be more than happy to watch your grift.
Oh, you're saying my name, your name would suit me better. Okay, I get it. These old rat ears. Yeah, sometimes.
So you guys eventually basically want to try and sell Hugh's map back to him.
No, I want to sell the map to the guys, but let Hugh know that they set up this whole thing so that he can get his map back and hopefully give us some favor with him. We're exposing these guys to Hugh, and then
the other guys, the gambling guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
so what you're really doing is doing him a favor, so that if it wasn't you, it would have been someone else who stole it anyway.
I see. That's very interesting.
Exactly. But then also, yeah, so we got to make sure, and then also this way we can kind of test out his combat skill, possibly. I don't know.
Yeah, so Wuce had struck a deal with one of the gamblers in the Thundering Lizard, a man by the name of Raz, and he said if he was able to steal the map from Hugh, they could sell it to a third party that he knows about for a fairly decent sum that then Raz would perhaps split with Wuce. And so I think what Wuce is saying is to make that deal and then tell Hugh where his map is in the hands of those other people and convince him that they had stolen it instead of you guys or Wuce.
Or not convince him of that. I don't mind him knowing. It's all part of the plan to out these guys, though.
Sure.
Plus, I've already made a deal with the guy that I get to be at the meetup that he's selling for.
As long as Sorry.
I have to say that I am not used to what you are trying to do, but the dwarf was quite rude, to say the least. So if he gets his map back or not, I don't really give a damn.
Okay, so maybe it's just more for us then.
I'd feel bad if the dwarf doesn't get his map, kind of. I mean, it's sad.
We can cut off his leg to match his arm, and then maybe, I would feel sympathy.
Jesus.
I'm indifferent on whether or not he gets his map back. I just want to make the most gold out of this.
Now, being part of the church, I understand the maximization of gold. So, most definitely, let's do that.
So, anyone else have any thoughts?
Do we need to go with you on this meeting to make sure that you're not ambushed, attacked, double-crossed, all those things?
Wait, say that again? Sorry, I was drinking.
Do we need to go with you on this your meeting to make sure that you're not double-crossed?
Yeah, I was kind of thinking maybe you guys could tell me.
Well,
I
would
don't
it
know
not?
if you guys know what tell means. It just means to follow from a distance and not be seen.
Oh yes, it's a double entendre, I think, with your existing tail.
Yeah, because in some places it means to cut one's tail off. I don't want you to cut my tail off.
Oh, okay, yes. Thank you for the clarification. In my opinion, it may be better to meet with Wakanga before we do any of this, because he may curry some favor. And if we get into trouble, perhaps he would be able to help us out.
Are we getting gold from Wakanga?
Well, we haven't met him yet, but he is a friend of Syndra, who may be able to promise us some help. Maybe there will be gold.
I think that Syndra probably would have mentioned in passing, kind of when she was giving you guys the tour of the city a little bit more about Wakanga. She probably would have mentioned that Wakanga deals in knowledge, information, lost lore, potions, and scrolls. She probably would have mentioned that he's the only arcane spellcaster among the merchant princes, and he's sympathetic to the Harpers. Wakanga basically has a monopoly on magical items in the city, and so any type of potion or any kind of arcane item or anything of a magical nature, if you're purchasing it, Wakanga probably has his hands in it in one way or another.
So perhaps he would be amenable to allowing us to use some of his potions. Potions of healing, invisibility, water breathing, for instance.
Oh yeah, I woke up the other day and there was a potion of invisibility in my pouch. Maybe he left it there, or is it a he? I don't even know genders, you humanoids.
Dare you assume his gender?
Yeah, my bad. I apologize. apologize for that. Sorry, guys.
Well, I mean, I think it's a good idea to visit the guy first. Also, like if he was into giving us some help, he might not be into that after you guys get us into trouble.
The way I'm playing it, we're not going to get into trouble. It's how I'm seeing it go down, you know?
Yeah.
Or rather, we're going to get in trouble with the troublemakers, so the non-troublemakers will align with us, maybe.
Yeah, like I'm assuming the people who are going to buy the map are bad guys. If not, that would be an issue. But I mean, if they want people to steal stuff and then they'll buy it, that's what bad people do, I guess.
Thank you.
So you guys want to head over to Throne Hill and speak with Wakanga, or did you want to try and set up the deal with Roz and the map?
My vote would be for meeting with Wakanga first, but if we just want to put it to a numbers vote, that would probably be best.
If there's no time limit on the exchange for the map of the money, I'd say go meet Wakanga first.
Get the impression that Roz spends a lot of time in the Thundering Lizard.
Okay.
NPC will be there.
Okay. Well, then I'd say we go see Wakanga.
Sure.
So-
So
Thanks.
as you guys kind of meander up through the city streets, you hear kind of you come across this large stone archway. I'd say right about here to your left, and you can kind of just before you get to where the archway opens up and you can see down this lane, you hear these like big thundering footsteps, and as you come into the opening, you see this large beast with three big horns, pulling a large cart behind it, coming up from out of the jungles. This portion of the city is called Malar's Throat, and it leads out into the jungles itself, but you can see, kind of looking down this lane, the buildings and structures are kind of built into these sheer cliff faces, all on top of each other, and probably 200 feet above, there are these spanning kind of viney bridges that slope and hang down across this wide gap. And coming up towards you into the city is looks like a caravan, basically being pulled by this large reptilian creature, stomping up through. People are kind of moving out of its way, and there are some natives who look like to be piloting it, and the cart you can kind of see is open, and it just seems to be laden with there are these large cages, and in the cages there look to be like a few of them have these large eggs inside of them, and then a few more have what look to be like smaller baby versions of this little beast, or this big beast that's pulling this cart. Looks like maybe a scavenging party for dinosaurs is returning to town, but you see this big Jurassic creature kind of stomping up into the city itself. As you guys continue along, it kind of comes in through the large archways and moves down past you, down back towards the Red Bazaar, just kind of at a slow pace as people kind of clear the way as this large creature's stomping through the streets of the port now, pulling this cart behind it. People kind of stop and you know, look at the little baby creatures as they pass by, and they seem to just head down south to the southern portion of the city, kind of in this direction as they stomp past you.
Just as do you need me to roll every time we do this kind of traveling? I'm always perma hiding, you know.
No, you don't need to make a stealth check. It's fairly easy to be unnoticed in pretty much 24 hours a day. Port Nine Zaru is fairly alive, and but
And
go ahead.
I'm like kind of always as a second thing. I'm like looking in crevices and in trash for primarily food and stuff, but anything of value. But I have a high metabolism, so
Gotcha. Yeah.
I'm pretty much always hungry.
The streets, the streets of Port Nine Zaru are very clean. As you're walking through the streets of the city, kind of lining along all the city walls and many of the buildings, there are these ruts or gutter systems that line all throughout, and they're designed basically to carry rain out of the city during times of heavy downfall. Um, and the people of Port Nine Zaru themselves, the locals, the natives, they are also just like a very meticulously clean people. So the city itself, especially the inner portions of the city, which would be considered the wealthy portions of the city, are meticulously clean. With the exception of maybe the Red Bazaar, but Wuce, you do smell up in this direction, coming from some distance, but kind of wafting down on the wind. You do catch the faint hint of refuse, and you probably think that there is a central point where maybe the city has some sort of landfill or something.
I'm gonna note that in the back of my mind, and maybe on another down
Yep.
time I'll make my way over there just to check it out.
You can smell the rat's paradise.
No.
Yeah.
We're spending most of my life living in the paradise.
And
Sorry.
but as you make your way up through the streets past the Colosseum again and the large market square, even now that night's approaching and the sun is kind of now setting, and it's in that position where you can kind of see the soft glow of the moon, but the tip of the sun is now just kind of setting down over the horizon. You can hear kind of all throughout the city, as you travel, the sound of the tabaxi minstrels still plucking away at their instruments and singing songs, and business kind of never ends in Port Nine Zaru. But as you kind of approach where now you can see the Throne Hill, where many of the Sindred pointed out that the merchant princes all live, you can see the tops of their villas jutting out, and you see the blue domed top of Wakangas villa down from below. You find a set of stone stairs that kind of lead up, because the Port Nine Zaru is kind of a tiered city, and so it has kind of these levels, and you make your way up these stairwells that kind of curve around up onto the one of these long stone bridges that cross the area of the city called Throne Hill, and you do manage to make your way to what you believe to be Wakanga's villa. And standing out front, the gate, the portcullis or the gate is kind of open, and there are two guards standing out front with long spears, and they have these kind of hide shields strapped to their backs, and they're kind of like the many of the villas that you pass have these similar kind of like manned guards at the gates. Wakangas are kind of draped. They're totally shirtless, and they have like billowing white pants on, and their waists are wrapped with these kind of like flowing blue sashes. They're both fairly big, burly men, and one of them just kind of puts his hand out as you start to approach Wakanga's villa, and he just says, "I'm sorry, but there are no visitors without appointment. Please don't linger here long."
Wait, who told us about this lady?
Sindra? No?
Yep.
Right, so Syndra, when we arrived, said that she was going to meet with Wakanga.
Uh-huh.
and basically that they were old friends. She didn't really say. She told us that he's one of the merchant princes, which
She
is
did,
one of the reasons. Oh, go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah, and she did say that you could come visit her there if you needed to. The guards just might not know.
I'm gonna come out of the shadows
Uh,
and be like, Sindra sent us here.
um, the other guard who hasn't didn't speak, he kind of just turns and goes into the grounds of the villa. You can see, inside the grounds they're very large and manicured. There are, hedges that have been kind of trimmed into the shapes of different things. Like there's one that's, shaped like a a big dinosaur. I don't know what those ones are called with the long necks. Brontosaurus, I think. Littlefoot.
Yeah,
Yeah. He's got a big hedge that's kind of trimmed, like that, and there are colorful flower bushes and things of that nature. You also notice the two torch sconces that are sitting out on either side of the archway outside of Wakanga's little estate here, um, are flickering with like magical blue flame. Um, most of the other torches, look to be just regular torches set in that are normal fire, but Wakangas are kind of like the flames are kind of like resting a few inches above the torch sconce itself, and they're kind of like flickering and waving. And as you're standing there waiting for the other guard to return, like they turn from blue, and they kind of rotate to like a soft yellow, and then they another like 30 seconds or so goes by, and they rotate to like a deep purple color, and the magical
Nice.
the magical flames like outside of Wakanga's villa are just kind of like a rotating, um, you know,
Disco
yeah,
lights.
disco lights almost, yeah. And eventually the guard returns, uh, and the other guard returns and he says, Wakanga says it's okay, you can let them in, and they kind of usher you in through the garden area up to the big front of the big villa. You can see it's all kind of very open and airy. From here, you can even see into the villa as you get closer and approach, and it's very lavish and extravagant. The guards kind of usher you into the main foyer here. I don't know, is this map totally black for you guys?
Yep.
Okay, gotcha. I'll drop you down Glyst so you can see, just so you can see. Um, so in Wakanga's villa, as the guards kind of usher you into the main little foyer, there's like a wash basin in the front when you just come inside. But you can see everything is very lavish and extravagant. You can see into the just past into the next room. There's a large, elaborately woven carpet on the floor, and these two long stairwells that kind of wind up and around to the second level of the villa. You can see all of the, much like the torch sconces on the outside, all of the torches lining the walls here are all look to be magically lit, and all the flames kind of switch and dance different colors on occasion. Um, um, uh, and you wait there for like 5 minutes go by, and then like 10 minutes go by, and then finally coming down one of the wrapped stairwells, you see a man, kind of come down, holding himself with a very kind of elegant posture. He seems to kind of glide down the stairwells. He's got his head wrapped in kind of a dark colored turban, and he has a manicured beard with three kind of tendrils that are tightly wrapped that come down the front. Um, on either of his ears, there are many golden and silver earrings, hoop earrings that kind of line the backs of his ears. He's wearing like a silk a silk robe that kind of matched the colors of his guards, that they're kind of white, wrapped in blue, kind of silk sashes. And as he comes down, he says, it is so nice to have visitors that aren't uh, some of the other merchant princes. I'm so tired of uh, the politics and business of the city. It's nice to see some outsiders for once. You are friends of Syndra's, yes?"
Yes, we are. Thank you.
And he says, "Well, please feel free to come inside and make yourselves at home." And he kind of gestures for you to follow him, kind of in through the main like foyer here, um, and in past the stairways that kind of lead up to the second floor into like a little sitting room. Um, and you see kind of now trailing behind you guys. There's like a servant, and Wakanga just kind of gestures to the servant fairly elaborately with a flick of his hand and wrist, and you see the servant scurry away, and Wakanga says, "Please have a seat. Let's have a conversation." And a few moments later, the servant comes back with a plate full of like cheese and dates, and kind of a big vase, or like a big pottery, some kind of pottery thing filled with liquid, and Wakanga begins to pour some out in some of the glasses that are already here on the table on this little kind of golden tray, and you can see the same color of that tej that you had at the Thundering Lizard. It's kind of like this golden rich, and you can almost smell the fruits wafting out of the pottery that he's pouring it out of. Um, and he says, "How are you enjoying the port so far?"
I attack the food and drink
Yeah.
with ravenous vigor.
You Wakanga doesn't like show any sign um of that bothering him or anything. Like, he keeps his composure, but I think maybe like Sigismund and maybe even Ayan, you guys would know, like, that's not necessarily like proper etiquette, and you would think that, like, but Wakanga's not really showing any signs of it bothering him, you being guests of his old friend Syndra.
Do I pick up on their reaction?
I don't know. I'm
Yeah, Ayan is not very charismatic, so he would probably, if he saw Wuce do something that was like a social faux pas, he
Yeah,
probably wouldn't even react to it. He
you know,
just sort of takes it in stride.
yeah, because being from not too far from here, from Kalimport, they share and extend some of the same rituals and cultures, especially in social situations. And so you'd be kind of familiar with these kinds of little private meetings or gatherings with a person of importance, Um,
Who are you talking to right now?
Ion.
So Ayan, does he know sort of any respectful traditional greeting that he might give to Wakanga?
Yeah, to basically to the sense of, kind of translates into like, "Thank you, gracious host, for blessing us with your time, and your presence," that kind of thing.
Okay, he says that, and he says, "My father, Randir Khan of Kalimport, sends his regards to you, as I hear that you are merchants."
Let's if we're gonna do a little name dropping, let's do some. We'll do an intelligence and see if that sounds familiar to Wakanga. Ah, um, Wakanga kind of turns his head and thinks for a moment, and he says, I think that I have traded with your father on one time or another. He is an honest man."
The what?
honest man.
Oh, okay. Yes, he tries to be.
At least in my
Most of
view.
his dealings are
Go ahead.
they're mostly centered in the Sword Coast, but he has always spoke very kindly of Chult and very highly of your shrewd diplomacy.
Wakanga kind of smiles, very pleased with himself as you are kind of chatting him up a bit, um, and he says, um, "Well, not that this small talk is not pleasurable, but there must be some reason that you have come to visit me, especially in such a late hour. Typically, I don't um, host visitors past noon, so I'm making quite an exception for you, being friends of Sindra and all."
All right, so just out of character, Ayan would probably let someone who's got a little bit more of a persuasive ability.
Sure. Well, you've kind of already formed a bond with him, So, but yeah, anyone can speak up at any time.
Could we
Why are
use that
you?
as
Why
like
are you
the?
saying? Why? Sorry. Why are you saying persuasiveness?
I'd say that anybody, who's now conversing with Wakanga would have advantage on checks.
Yeah, that's
Well,
awesome.
I mean, at this point, Sigismund is, he's noticed that, the faux pas of Wuce, but he's himself just trying not to shove all the nice stuff in his face, and he's
can
not.
I? Am
not
I, am I
particularly
noticing?
intently at whatever you haven't actually eaten yet.
Sorry, I lost my internet connection momentarily there, so I missed a little bit of that.
Okay, so does
Well, if
someone?
I'm not reading the crowd, if no one's giving any sort of reaction to it, then I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing.
No, nobody stops you from ravenously eating away at the tray of dates and fruits and things.
Well, I'm not even asking if they're trying to stop me. I'm asking if I'm getting any sort of like reads from people reaction.
Oh, I mean, I think you notice like people looking over at you, but no, it doesn't seem like anybody's going to correct your behavior.
What he said, make yourself at home.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. I'd very daintily pick up just a chunk that was just a little too large and just shove it in my face.
Yeah, you do that thing where you're at a party and there's like a big tray of like appetizers and stuff, but nobody's touched it, and so you try and do that. You do that thing where like you're the first one and you grab like the one thing that you can and try and get it without anybody noticing. Yeah. Um. But it's very good. It seems like Wakanga's has good taste. The cheese he has seems to be aged very well, and all the dried fruits that he have seem to be very very fresh and juicy, kind of juicy still, even a little bit. There's that little bit of leftover kind of hydration left in some of the dates and things that are on the plate.
Wakanga, my man, this is some of the best cheese and dates I've had in a long time. Thank you.
Um, yeah, he looks over at you and he says, "Well, I'm glad that you enjoy them. Please don't be shy. Um, and if there's anything else that you would prefer, I can have my servant fetch it for you."
Oh man, what? Yeah, sure. Like, what's your favorite thing? I wouldn't mind tasting what Wakanga likes to eat or imbibe on.
Um, Wakanga says, "Being a scholarly man, I try and keep my body and mind in tip-top shape, so I have a very strict diet that I adhere to. I don't know that you would enjoy um, any of the things that I consume. It is mostly for uh, energy more than pleasure.
It seems odd that you have such nice food, and if it's really not about that for you. I'm guessing that means that you did this as a courtesy to us, in which, I'm obviously not the most polite or smooth fellow in the group, but I'll thank you for your hospitality.
He says, well, I do entertain a fair number of people in the city, and I have to keep up appearances, of course. I thank you for your gratitude, and I assure you that I have come across many more crude fellows than one such as you.
Okay. Well, I'll take that as a compliment.
I'll, make sure I don't have anything left in my mouth as I start speaking, just to be polite. We really appreciate you seeing us, especially since you don't really entertain at this point, but we have come for a reason, as you noted earlier.
Sindra has mentioned the plight that's affecting her, and she has told me a bit about your endeavors, yes.
Yes, and we have been walking around this beautiful city of yours and might have uncovered something that could aid us in stopping this affliction. But we would need more help than we currently have. And although we've just met and it might seem inappropriate, we would be very grateful if you had any assistance to offer us.
Wakanga kind of crosses his fingers in front of him and he says, I do enjoy Sindra's company. She has told me a great many wonderful stories of her life. But you have to understand, gentlemen, that I am running a business. The goods and services that I provide come at a cost. I would be willing to give you a bit of help. Being that you are working for Sindra, but I have to maintain my own interests as well. I hope you understand.
Of course I do. We wouldn't ask you to help us just for nothing. We are I would say, skillful bunch of people of varying talents. I am sure there is something we could do for you.
He says, well, you did manage to obtain a private meeting with one of the merchant princes of Port Nyanzaru on your first day here, so I would say that you are probably as capable as you say you are. It's quite a feat in itself. Personally, I don't have any business that needs immediate attention, but I do understand Sindra is rapidly decaying, if you will. Even since her arrival, the journey that the energy she expended to bring you all here has taken a toll on her, I can tell. I fear that she does not have much time, and I would hate to see her go before her time is up. I can offer you some accommodation if you are heading out into the jungles, but if you return in need of more assistance, I will have to charge you like anyone else.
That seems fair. And, if there's at some point you end up with a problem that can't really be solved by anyone, regular person.
And he looks over to you, Ayan, and he says, and perhaps in the interest of future trade, maybe I can give you a deal when you do decide to purchase from me.
That sounds very, very magnanimous of you.
And so he says, what is it exactly that you are looking for?
An item called the Soul Manga.
But outside of that, your need for assistance, what is it that you would ask about?
Oh, well, we will be leading an expedition into the jungle. So if you have any important map points that you could perhaps direct us to, if you have any resources which we could take with us, or even if you could just give us a suggestion of someone who would be a worthy guide.
And Garn speaks up. Healing. Need some extra healing.
He says, well, in terms of jungle guides, I cannot assist you. One of the other merchant princes holds sway over all the jungle guides. His name is Jobal. If you would like to learn more about some of the guides that are currently offering their services in the city, I would suggest either speaking with him or going to the port district of the city. Many of the guides post their wages and where you can find them on the bulletin board outside of the dockmaster's quarter. Let's see. How about Sigismund or Ayan? One of you make a persuasion check with advantage.
I'm thinking that would probably be me.
Yeah, probably a good idea.
Despite Ayan
Don't
actually
forget
doing most of
guidance.
the talking.
And guidance.
Oh shit! Here we go.
Keep in mind. Well, actually, before you do your guidance, Garn, why don't you just go ahead and make an intelligence check for me, or a wisdom check? I'll take either.
Okay.
Oh, because he knows magic, so he'd probably know that you were going to do guidance, maybe.
So it doesn't cross your mind. You instinctively just go, this is what I do. If somebody's I'm traveling with is trying to accomplish something, I give them a little guidance, and you just do it instinctively. But yes, this would be a person who would know that you are trying to insert influence in a magical manner.
So do I need to try to do it stealthily?
Despite still Wakanga shows no sign of being offended, but you do gather that that's probably simply because you're here on behalf of Syndra. Otherwise, you might have been thrown out at your magical attempt at magically influencing one of the merchant princes of Port Nine Zaru. But he does say, I can offer you a few potions and perhaps any magical scrolls that you might need, if you had anything in particular in mind.
Thank
This
you.
This is where the nerds make a Christmas list.
So he will give you 3 potions and 2 magical scrolls of your choice. And he will give you up to a 2nd level healing potion.
Oh, nice.
All right, so obviously we ask for a scroll of wish.
He will give you up to a 3rd level spell scroll.
All right,
Do you have the hand of Vecna?
Spellcasters, what would we find to be useful? Like something that was on Garn's mind. But just so that you don't have to prepare certain spells or spells that don't appear on your.
Basically, for a non-casting class, or even a casting class that's not a wizard or a sorcerer, the spell DC to cast a spell scroll is 10 plus the spell scroll's level. So to cast a 3rd level spell scroll, would be a DC 13 Arcana check.
Even if it's a cleric spell?
If it's a cleric spell, then no. If it's of a spell level that you can cast, then you can just cast it off the scroll. If it's of a spell level that you can't cast, then it's just a DC. It's a DC 10 plus the spell level.
But what I'm saying is an Arcana check. I mean, I have no intelligence.
Sure.
So It's not wisdom based in some way.
For a cleric spell, I'd allow it to be cast with the wisdom base. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would say if we're going to go third level, mass healing word is probably the most beneficial.
Healing word?
Mass healing word. That means I can hit everybody if everybody's hurt.
That sounds dope. That sounds like something that we want.
Yep.
What are our limitations again?
Up to third level spell scrolls and 3 potions of your choice. And he'll give you a healing potion up to a second level healing potion, which is 44 plus 4. But he'll give you, he'll give you like an anti-venom potion. He'll give you a water breathing potion. He'll give you a fire breath potion.
Healing potions seem like the way to go to me, just because we don't know what specifically we would be facing. But Ryan brings up an interesting point when he says an anti-venom potion, because he's a dungeon master and that kind of scares me.
I try and give players subtle hints. But you can also buy anti-venom out in the city. That's not necessarily something that's totally reduced to being purchased from Wakanga. Like, you can probably find anti-venom elsewhere, like in the markets and stuff.
Could we make sure to ask him like where the best shops? I mean, he's in charge of all the shops selling these things. Where the best shops are?
Sure. So he actually says, when you ask that, he says, well, actually, I have to look that up real quick. I don't have that on the top of my head here. It's because there's a different. You guys went past that one market. Okay, there we go. So you guys went past the big tented market, which was called the Grand Souk, which is like the public market. There's another market that's more high end. It's called the Jewel Market, and so Wakanga says that, well, any potion or magical scroll or item you buy in the Grand Souk is considered contraband. It's either false, or it's not. It's being sold without my permission. So anything you buy there would be considered a legal transaction and would be under my control. So if I am not available, you can go to the jewel market and purchase some of the more magical means that you might need. Does that answer your question? I forget what your question was now.
Yes, okay. Thank you.
I would have asked for, out of character, I would have asked for two scrolls of Revivify and a Heartbeat, but since we can't raise the dead.
Right. You're under the impression that those won't work.
Yeah, mass healing word seems like a really good idea here. We may also want to just consider healing potions, and then we can buy anti-venom because of those subtle DM hints.
Does anybody else want a scroll, or do we just want to go to mass healing words?
So you just want 3 greater healing potions?
Yeah, I think that's probably a good idea.
Okay. 3 greater things, 1 mass healing word, and you have 1 spell scroll left that he'll give you.
What about something that's like a utility spell? Like, just a base travel spell. Like if we're...
What's the level of that other spell or scroll?
Up to 3rd level.
And you could even do from the Xanathar's Guide.
Say again?
You could even pick one from Xanathar's Guide.
I was thinking something simple, like just like a knock or a feather fall might be useful.
Yeah.
what level spell is detect or like locate object or like detect magic, that sort of thing?
Let's see. Locate an object is a
Second level.
second level. Yeah. Detect magic, I think, is probably within third level as well.
The Detect Magic is first level. I can get that if we need it. I can just change the spell out.
Oh, if that's on your list, then you can just cast it as a ritual, I think, Garn.
Yeah. No, you have to have it as one of your prepared spells, which I can change something out. That's not a big deal.
Okay. What about like? Oh, I'm trying to think of what we might need if we're going into like a. Ayan is always thinking about like a dungeon or a ruin or something like that.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
Don't we have some people that don't have?
So you do remember you kind of have a Ion, you kind of have a flashback of like, touching the crystal and being transported to another place, and then finding magical runes into the two doors of the Lich's basement, and um,
comprehend language.
yeah, or like a dispel magic versus a detect magic might be useful.
mhm.
Very.
Yeah. So dispel magic, you could totally get third level spell.
I think that the final decision should probably be up to someone who would be, at the end of the day, casting the spell. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So the dispel magic would and if that's not a cleric spell, right?
Yes, it is.
Oh, is it? Okay. Yeah.
But I can't. I mean, it's third level. I can't get it yet.
Right. But you could cast it with an arcana check using your wisdom modifier.
Okay.
Yeah. So is that what you want to choose?
I don't think that's a bad spell to have.
Yeah.
What about, so he mentioned the crystal shard and the rune thing. What level is the spell detect traps?
Detect.
It's fine. It's
Spell.
fine traps. Second level. It's a cleric spell.
Okay, so you would be able to cast that now.
Yeah.
I would, but that would be very difficult because I have healing in those slots at the moment.
Okay, no worries. I'm just spitballing options here. I think dispel magic would be a strong choice. Thief, so he can always sort of look around and try to find traps with either his perception or his hit points.
Sure. And I will remind you a little bit, like, once you actually get into traveling in the jungle, like, it's kind of a slogfest. It's very slow, and depending on how careful or uncareful you are, like meticulous or whatever. So there will be a lot of opportunity to. You're going to be making a lot of camps. You're going to be having a lot of opportunity to change out your spells if you need them, depending on the circumstances that you have. And so. Um, I'm just trying to help you inform your decision.
Well, I mean, like
What
I
did you
said,
say? I couldn't hear you. The radio was going here.
Oh, it's just for trying to decide on what the last spell scroll is.
Yeah, but what did you say specifically?
I said specifically that once you actually get out into the jungles of Cholt and are traveling, it's kind of a slogfest. So it's slow going. Like one hex is a day of travel, basically, depending on how careful or uncareful you are, or whether you're traveling on land or on river. And so you'll have a lot of opportunity to traveling from place to place, switch out your spells, or when you get somewhere that you think you want to explore, go, okay, well, let's just camp here for the night and prepare for this thing that's now before us, and get the things that you need prepared ready. So, if there's spells that you can cast, then you might not necessarily want to choose choose a spell scroll of that. So being a higher level spell like a Dispel Magic where Garn can get find traps, you know, they might, you know, I'm just trying to help inform the party of the decision that they'll make, you know.
Yeah, I was also thinking maybe we should think about something that could be used for escaping a bad situation. Something to help, like with travel or something.
Yeah, that's also a very good, a very good choice. Something in a
Something like
pinch,
a
yeah.
pass without a trace or something like that.
Pass Without Trace, or like a darkness spell, or grease. I don't know what some other good escaping spells are. I think in like my problem is that I don't know a lot about the spells. I don't know a lot about the different intricacies of the character classes and things like that because I play on a broader scale, being a DM all the time. So
Yeah, and I'm not. I'm still.
yeah.
What is our party breakdown again? We're like, there's a bunch of rogues, a cleric. What else is there?
3 rogues, a cleric, a paladin, and a bard, soon to be bard.
Maybe look at the bard spell list. Bard's spell lists are pretty versatile. If we're trying to keep within one of our classes as well, I don't know. And did any of the rogues end up doing the trickster
I don't think so.
archetype?
Yeah, I don't think so.
If you want the bard, I think the most powerful spell on the bard list, for especially to try to get out of something that's too powerful for us, would be Hypnotic Pattern. It's a 30-foot cube that they have to make a charisma saving throw or wisdom saving throw, or they're standing still doing nothing.
Yep. That's a good spell. That was one of that was one of Logan's bread and butter spells there.
Yeah, I had a 12th level bard. He casts that crap all the time.
Yeah.
So if we're
Yeah,
going,
I'm trying to think of like that might be a good utility because then it's almost like a get out of jail free card.
I don't disagree. I think that's a great one.
Yep. Okay, yeah. So Hypnotic Pattern.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a good spell.
Sounds good.
I had a in my other game, I was trying to fill a player slot and I brought a new player in, and the player didn't end up working out, but they were doing White Plume Mountain, which is one of the Yawning Portal adventures. And so there's this big bubble room where there's this giant crab, and he hypnotic patterned the crab. The crab failed its saving throw. They just went past the huge beast and looted the chest that it was guarding, and got like, you know, one of the sentient weapons, one of the most powerful weapons.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a pretty sick spell.
Especially when it's a 30-foot cube. Also, you can catch a lot of creatures in that.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey. Cool. 1 hypnotic pattern.
And if it catches one of us, we can just pull that person out, right?
Yes. If you do anything, wake them up. You have to spend an action to wake them up, but 1 point of damage or waking them up will get them out of that situation.
And then also while we're kind of brainstorming, I'm gonna like try and coax what's his name? Sorry, Wenatchee. Wakanga. I'm gonna try and like kind of prod at him to see if there's really nothing that we can do for him in the jungle, because there's got to be something in the jungle that he's at least interested in or curious about.
Sure.
Being a man of magic.
All right. Sorry about that, guys.
No problem.
It's the first time I had a chance to speak to Mike about his character at all. So I was just trying to get a handle on fitting him into the story.
All right, sounds good.
It's fun.
So Wuce was trying to persuade Wakanga for something. Right?
Yes.
Yes. So what's
You
up?
want me? You want me to roleplay it out now?
Yeah, sure.
Hey, Wakanga. I can't help but think that you being, someone that dabbles in magic and curiosities and such, there's got to be something that
Oh,
you're interested in from the jungle. There's got to be some. I mean, I feel like we could make some kind of arrangement.
um, yeah. He says, well, I did have a meeting with one of Syndra's other parties of adventurers that I'm sure she mentioned who have gone missing in the jungles. I did loan them one of my magical instruments, a wand. They promised to return it on their return to Port Nyanzaru, and they haven't come back since. They've been missing for about 2 weeks now. I have heard that they were heading towards Camp Righteous. That's their last known whereabouts. If you were to find my item, which happens to be a wand of cure wounds, I'd be very grateful.
Do we know where is Camp Righteous on our map?
It
Yes.
is, and it's down one of the riverways.
I think that is probably something that our group could look into for you.
He says Camp Righteous was a sect of the Order of Priests and Paladins of Helm came here to Cholt near the beginning of when the information of the death curse began to spread, and the undead were becoming more prevalent in the jungles. They set up a camp down at the end of one of our rivers, and unfortunately, the camp was overcome by the undead, as far as I've heard. They've since created a new camp called Camp Vengeance, and their power is much. They've basically learned from their mistakes. They built a wall, and now they're holding firm in the jungles. But Camp Righteous is basically all but destroyed, and the undead are heavy there. That is why nobody has been able to go and retrieve. I basically chucked the wand up to a loss, and for a man of my means, really, it's not much of an issue. But I mean, I always like to see my possessions returned. So if you can return it to me, perhaps you can just keep the item yourself. But I do know that you might give Syndra a peace of mind, knowing the fate of one of her groups of adventurers, much like yourselves.
Okay, so Ayan can point out on the map exactly where Camp Righteous and Camp Vengeance are supposed to be. If you guys look at the player map, go down river. Is it Soshin Star?
Yep.
If we head down River Soshin Star, we'd be able to travel by boat, or would we be going against the current? Like, what would be the...
Wakanga says there are places in the city that you can rent canoes. The rivers are slow travel, but they tend to be a bit safer than traveling on land, and a bit faster. The rivers flow very slowly. The currents are not fast or vast. So yes, you could rent canoes and travel that way.
All right, that sounds awesome. Just
Is
out
there
of
any kind of-
character...
Is there any kind of identifying features about this wand?
Wakanga says, it is of a simple make. It is basically a small branch of oak. It tends to grow leaves at the tips, though. They
Go
change.
ahead. Okay.
They change with the seasons. Here in Cholt, they're probably bare. But if you were to say go up to the Sword Coast with it in winter, the leaves would crumble and rot. In spring, they would blossom and bloom. In summer, they would flourish and flow green in the wind. But it is mostly looks like a gnarled root.
Okay, that sounds awesome. So, out of character, if we want to, so Ayan really wants to go into the jungle, like, if that's possible.
Yeah.
But there's also the matter of still finding our guide, so we can speak with Azaka. We can also speak with Joe Ball and see if maybe there's a guide who could like throw in canoes as part of their price.
Sure. Wakanga says, as you said, you all look like capable people. But it would be wise, you being strangers to this land, to find a guide. But you do want to find an honest one. Like I said, Joe Ball does most of the handling of the jungle guides, but I do know that there's a woman who lives on the Isles of Cholt. She has been here her whole life, by the name of Azaka. She has been recently offering her services as a jungle guide, and if I were to personally suggest somebody, I would say that Azaka Stormfang would be the most intelligent choice.
Oh, look, we got a recommendation out of them. Yelp is like really, really doing Azaka Stormfang some good. That's 2 recommendations that we've gotten for her now.
Yeah, it might be the best choice. I mean, in any case, we should probably wait until the morning. I mean, it's evening now. Just setting out in the dark would probably not be a great idea.
Oh yeah, I mean, because we set up a meeting with her tomorrow, but
Yep.
Ayan is always just itching to go. He doesn't like, just standing around in the city. He's like, oh, can we throw together a makeshift expedition in 20 minutes? All right, let's get to it.
Wakanga says, it is getting quite late. You're all welcome to stay here for tonight. Sindra is, I'm currently allowing her to rest in my personal chambers, but we do have guest rooms here in my villa. You will have to share, but you are welcome to stay here rather than sleep on rough bunks in one of the inns in the city. It is the least I can do for friends of my friend. You're welcome to explore the grounds, but I would ask that you stay out of the second level of my home.
So no going upstairs.
Please.
It's a very generous offer. I would like to, accept. I don't know about the rest of the party. Maybe some of you like to sleep in hay.
I would like to
Oh,
take
that
off
sounds-
this armor so I could stop sweating.
And yeah, actually, throughout the villa, there are almost every single room has basically a wash basin that's full of cool water. Especially in Wakanga's home, the water is magically cooled, so it's like extra icy cold. Um, on the bottom level, there's kind of a common room that's kind of adorned with throw pillows and blankets and rugs, and there are 2 bunk beds, basically 2 rooms with 2 beds each, or basically like 1 king size bed, so you'll have to sleep like ass to ass or crotch to crotch, however you do it. and then there's another single room as well. So there's enough space for you all to sleep here. And there are plenty of things on the bottom level where he's allowed you to stay too. There's like a little sauna room. There's a ritual chamber, but almost every one of the rooms down on the bottom level has like cool water, and the villa itself is like very open aired. And so especially in the night, like the breezes kind of blow in through the open portals and the windows and the doors that are all kind of left open in the night because of the villas all being under fairly reasonable guard. It's a safe place. It's a quiet place. It's a comfortable place to sleep for the night.
All right, sounds good.
Yep, I think that's probably the best plan.
Works for me.
Yeah, there's you guys can kind of like move your tokens around if you want to explore, but actually I can just open this map up. That's what I'll do. That'll be a better, so you can see the whole floor plan.
Oh shit.
So you can kind of see over here, there's kind of a ritual chamber. This is probably where Wakanga does a lot of his magical things. Over here, this was the little sauna room back in here. Down here are the guest bunks and the common relaxation room, and as well as one of the inner gardens. And then, out on the outer portions, there's more of a big sprawling garden as well. There's kind of like this is, I think, kind of maybe like the kitchens right here with the big, stone hearth and down, and then the stairs lead down. Actually, those stairs look like they go up, but, in the center, where the stairs kind of lead up to the second floor here in the middle, and as well as various kind of storage rooms and things of that nature.
All right, well, Ayan is just going to hit the hay. I don't think he really has that much interest in exploring Wakanga's mansion, as it were.
Yeah. And why don't you Ayan, why don't you make an intelligence check for me?
Okay.
Or maybe even a history check if you're proficient.
I am proficient. All right, let me roll one up.
Yeah, so it doesn't even cross your mind. I think probably like the pure excitement of getting out into the jungles has basically exhausted you, and you don't think to give any cursory warnings to anybody about further etiquette in staying in a nobleman's estate. Yep. And what anyone else? What is anyone spend the rest of the evening? The servants. Wakanga kind of bids you adieu. He says, if none of you need me any further this evening, I have other matters to attend to. So last call.
Are we able to leave the grounds and then come back?
Yes, my guards will be informed that you may come and go as you please tonight.
Thank you.
Then he kind of looks to the rest of you, and if there's nothing else, then I will depart. It has been quite a pleasure to meet all of you gentlemen.
Likewise. Thank you very much for your generosity.
And he kind of glides out of the little sitting chamber here, and he actually leaves the grounds himself. You see him go out through the main foyer and out past through two guards are kind of waiting outside of the doors as he leaves, and you see that they kind of tail him and they leave with him kind of as a little guard as he makes his way out into the city. But the servant remains behind, waiting expectantly for any request you might have, as well as there is a now guard posted in the main foyer, kind of in this carpeted room where the stairs are, just to make sure nobody goes upstairs, as well as the two guards that you had first met coming into the villa itself.
All right.
And
So
we're about 10 minutes away from being like 2 hours in, so maybe that's a good 5-minute break point there.
Okay.
Being
Sure.
about halfway through the session, so we'll go get up and do some stretching, do what you gotta, get a drink, or and then we'll come back in about 5 minutes or so, pick up for the second half.
All right.